Hey everybody, it's Alex Niffin with Fairfield Beach Realty at Century 21 All Points. It is the start of June, which means it's time for the May 2026 Fairfield County Builders Report. As a reminder, we don't produce enough inventory in our county each month for a single month to be considered a relevant sample size. So all the data you're going to see should be read as the 12 months ending at May 2026 or whatever month we're looking at that time. All right. The other thing to bear in mind, Greenwich behaves completely differently than the rest of the county, so we don't include it in this data as either. All right. With that in mind, let's get into it. Okay. So this is what we've produced over the last year. In other words, these are the homes that we've brought to market and listed in the MLS. And you'll notice that over time, we were producing quite a bit of these two-bedroom homes, single-family two-bedroom homes, and that production has died off till the last 12 months. We've only produced 13, in other words, one a month for the period ending at the end of May. At the same time, our three-bedrooms have actually started to rise in production to the point where we are now producing more than two of them a month. These should be read. The two bedrooms are probably almost exclusively 55 and older community homes, and the three bedrooms are not. However, when we jump from what we've brought to market to what we're selling, you can see that the story is very different. We were not selling that many two bedrooms back when we were producing them. So we produced a glut, and thank goodness we did, because we primed the pump, and now there's legitimate consumer demand. Consumers are buying these two-bedroom homes at a rate of over two a month, but we're only producing one a month right now. So if you're a builder out there wondering what to do with your next mid to large size project, I would highly recommend at least considering a 55 and older community development and probably a bunch of two bedrooms in there. The story on the three bedrooms, though, is the complete opposite, right? We're now producing over two a month, 27 in the past 12 months. We've sold a whopping 12. So this is a bit of a problem, right? We're producing a large glut, and nobody's really looking for that three-bedroom home anymore. Outside of that, percentage-wise, we're doing very well with our balance, right? So we're about 36% of what we're selling are four bedrooms, and we're producing a little over 40%. Yeah, there you go. So within a 5% band. 21% of what we're building are five bedrooms, and we're selling basically 24%. The only thing I would caution is these are all percentages, and the raw numbers are looking a little scary right now. So over the last 12 months, we've been producing basically at a rate of a little over 10 four-bedroom homes a month, but we're only selling, we've only sold 72. So there's a 50 home gap right now, right? We're putting a decent amount of glut on the market. So let's be careful with that as we gauge how much consumer interest there really is in new construction right now. All right, moving on from there, average size. This is one of the other charts that I've made a change to recently because I wanted to show the difference, in other words, the disparity between what the consumer is looking for and what we're bringing to market. Ideally, the two bars should always be the same, right? So the darker one is what we're building, the brighter one is what we're selling, and you see how we're basically building and selling the same exact four-bedroom home. It's right around 3,100 square feet. And consumers are buying basically the same thing. However, when we go up to the six bedrooms, you'll see that consumers are buying six bedrooms that average 63,500 square feet. But what we're producing on average is significantly lower than that, about 300 square feet smaller than that. What does that mean? That means that the smaller six bedrooms that we're producing right now are not selling. And so the average size for what's being sold is significantly higher than the average size for what's being brought to market. We don't want to see this kind of disparity. I was really worried with it last month when it was 500 square feet. It's down to 3. I think that's getting healthier. Hopefully these two meet up in the future. Everything else looks pretty good. You know, a small disparity on the 5 bedrooms that I'm not overly worried about because things do fluctuate over time. Average price per square foot. As you would imagine, everything is rising slowly but surely. It's interesting to see that not only are more bedroom larger, in size, right? So a 6-bedroom home is larger in size, but it also fetches a higher price point per square foot. And when you think about it, that makes total sense. Builders are forced, as they push up in price point, to provide nicer finishes, better fit, higher end appliances and all the rest. So it's really hard to build a cheap 6-bedroom home. You're being pushed into another price category up. And as such, your quality of the build increases. So your price per square foot does as well. So this is what they are fetching in terms of sales, right? So on average, if you're building one of those little 2-bedroom, you're going to fetch around $390 a square foot. All right. Looking at all beds sold, we've sold a total of 196 new construction homes over the last 12 months. During that time, we've brought 305 to market. So there's now 109 home glut produced over the last 12 months, which is starting to get fairly big. We really want to see it. You're never going to see it identical. You're never going to sell every single home that you bring to market, but you never want to see it get overly large either. And I think we're not trending in the best of ways right now. But it is good to see that we are tapering our production as we're starting to feel the demand taper as well. And then for the agents out there who watch this, we're still producing a ton of extra listings, right? So we sold 196. We needed 405 listings to sell the 196. And that's because we're listing and relisting and re-relisting a lot of the same properties. Looking at construction phase, we'll skip over this one, but I like this one better. So this is the percent chance of selling a new construction listing based on its type. So a to be built means we haven't broken ground yet. Under construction is pretty obvious. Torn down and rebuilt, and completed never occupied. Those are the two completed styles. Torn down and rebuilt is always going to do better, I think, or at least it should always do better, because builders are paying a little bit more to acquire that piece of property. And they're usually only doing that in neighborhoods that already have proven sales performance. So the torn down and rebuilt category should always, I think, outsell everything else. And sure enough, it is. But it's interesting to see that pretty much everything else is identical. There's no additional risk to listing a home while it's under construction. You're going to be just as successful with that listing as if you list it when it's to be built. But remember, basically all of those are coin flips. So don't get discouraged if your listing doesn't sell right away. It's not going to half the time. All right. And with that, that's all the data that I have to share with you this week, obviously, this month. Obviously, if you have any questions, reach out. I am here. I'm always happy to grab a coffee and chat. If there's any specifics you want to see in the data, let me know. I can always make some changes. All right. Good luck.